Hey everyone, it's Sarah here and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how I put together my most updated and my newest ABC felt busy book activity page. I wanted to create one that had no detachable pieces. And the reason I want to do this is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've gotten feedback from moms where they don't like having detachable pieces, that they're hard to keep track of. And then also because I sell these books and I have them in a local handmade boutique store, having detachable pieces is not good because then what happens is parents or kids will take my pages off the shelf and then play with them, and then pieces get lost or they take pieces off and they don't put them back on. So I try to only keep pages that have no detachable pieces. I'm actually not finished it, but I just wanted to film the intro to this video because I've got my tripod and everything set up and I'm waiting for the rest of the materials that I need to arrive. And what it is it's all going to be like a lift the flap themed ABC book, but I've actually done a few, like for the letter Y and Z, so the kids can lift the flap, and what the idea is that they will see an object, a button, a trinket that begins with that letter. So they can say Y is for yellow, Z is for zebra. Now, if you're just wanting to do a single copy of this just for one child in your life and you're not making this in bulk, I don't recommend making it in the way that I'm about to make it. Instead of having all those individual buttons, that's going to be expensive and you're going to have to order a bunch of them. For me, I've ordered hundreds of dollars worth of these little buttons. That's because I use them. I'm going to use them here. I use them in other pages. I use them in my I Spy bag, so it's no problem for me. But if I was just wanting to do a single copy of this with felt, instead of using buttons and little trinkets, I would probably make it so that I have a printed sheet and have just little pictures printed in, and so that they all fit in behind the sheet of vinyl. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I put them together, and then you can either do it the same way or do it however you like. And then I'll also have details about the cost of this page and the time that it takes me to make. I'll have those outlined on my Patreon if you're interested in subscribing or getting that information. That'll always be on my Patreon. But for now, just enjoy the video, and thanks so much to you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, let's get started. As always, I'm using 8" by 8" sheets of felt, and I'm using my nice 1.2 millimeter stiff Korean felt. I've already run these 8" by 8" sheets of felt through my Cricut cutting machine, and I have cut all these flaps. I'll show you the tool that I use on the Cricut. I can't share the template, like I said, for this because it's literally just lines, and so normally when I share templates, I'm sharing the silhouette of the outline, the actual object, and if I try to share this, I don't think it's going to work. But each cut, like each little square that I've cut out, it's just under 2 inches. I would say it's about 1 3/4 inches wide and about 1 1/4 inch tall, and I'm able to fit 3 across and 4 down, so I get 12 little flaps on each sheet. Now I also have these 2 pieces of clear plastic vinyl cut out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another 8" by 8" sheet of felt, actually 2 of them, and I'm going to layer the vinyl over top of that white sheet of felt, and then I'm going to layer my flaps over top. And I'm going to start by just getting these 3 layers all connected and attached to each other by just sewing around the border at the tops of the flaps, down the side right beside the flaps, and then just right below the flaps. But I need to leave one side open so that I can still fit and slide the buttons through. I can also go ahead actually and stitch one line of stitching in between each layer of the flaps, as long as I still have an opening to push the buttons through and to have them end up fitting underneath the flaps. And then once I get them in, I'll close off the rows. Now there is just one spot on the final flap, the YZ, the last 2 letters of the alphabet. For that one, I don't have any buttons that start with a Y, but I do have a little yellow piece of felt. So before I sew down, I'm going to just hot glue that yellow star, of course, because like I said, Y is for yellow. I'm going to hot glue that down because if I don't, that's going to be really difficult to somehow get that hot glued in when this is all stitched down. So I'm going to glue that in now, but that's the only one that I need to do before I start sewing, so that's the only one that requires it to be hot glued down. Now, if you were just using a little piece of paper with pictures printed on it, like I had suggested in the beginning, this is where you would want to have that slid in behind this white layer and the plastic vinyl, so that when you lift the flap, you can see all the little images. So you could insert that now if that's how you're making it, but I'm going to go ahead, get these in, and do the sewing for both the left and the right side. Okay, I've got both of those sewn out, and that's what it looks like. And like I said, as you can see, it's still open on this side, so I can still reach behind and get behind the flaps from this side, as well as the second page. There's still one side, but it doesn't matter whether it's the left side or the right side. I can still reach in behind and get behind the flaps to insert the buttons. There's the YZ buttons already in there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out, actually before I hot glue on the letters, I'm just going to trim off all the excess here around the borders. So I've already cut all these letters out on my Cricut. I cut them out in sets of 10 to make 10 copies of this at once. I could actually fit more. If you look at I'll provide the letter template on my Patreon. I don't know how good of a quality it might be. You might be better off just typing out your own font and organizing the template as you would like it, just because they're going to be pretty small and there's some small details on there. I use a font called Monday, as in the first day of the week, Monday on the Cricut. I'm not sure if you need to have like the Cricut Access monthly subscription to get that font or not. I do have that monthly subscription, but I'm just not sure if it was included without it or not. It doesn't matter what font you use, just pick a cute font, one that's easy for children to read, and make sure you're cutting them in a bold font, because otherwise it's going to be too difficult to hot glue them down. And so yeah, I've just decided to do them and cut them out in like nice kind of rainbow colors, and then I'll repeat those colors. So I'm going to hot glue all of those down on top of the felt. Okay, I've got all those letters hot glued on, and you can see the last two, I put 2 letters, just cut them a little bit smaller, and I put them to fit 2 on one flap. Otherwise, I'm not going to have enough flaps, but that's okay. The next thing I'm going to do, I've already got my buttons sorted here, and I'm going to just push those through in behind. So for example, starting with the furthest side that I've got the stitch closed off on, this part is a little bit tricky, but I'm just going to take, so this is A is for apple. I'm going to take that little apple button, I'm just going to use a pencil, and I'm going to push it right down to the end so that it appears underneath the A. And then I'm going to do that with the D, with the G, with the J. I'm going to push the buttons all in, and then I'm going to sew that side closed so that they can't move around and leave their assigned flaps. So for D, I have a little dog button, and again, I'm going to just push that through on the side. I use the eraser tip of a pencil to help me get it all the way through, and then I'm going to have it just sitting in there, and I'll continue that. I'll sew that down, then I'll do the next column, I'll sew that down at the side, and then I'll do the third column, and I'll sew that down at the side, and I'll do the same thing for this side. Okay, I've got all those buttons in, and I've got the stitches all closed up, so they're all inside in behind that plastic clear vinyl. Let me go through and show you what all the letters stand for. Before we get to that, I just thought I'd show you a little behind the scenes. Here are the hundreds of buttons that I did not include in this video, but that I beforehand went through and sorted through and got all the letters organized and found 10 of each one because I was making 10 sets at a time. And so like I said, there's just a ton of buttons, and yeah, that's not included in this video, but I wanted to share that before I continue. Let me show you what buttons I do have. A is for apple, B is for basketball, C is for cow, some of them are just little, D is for dog, E is for elephant, F is for frog, G is for grapes, H is for a horse, I is for ice cream, J is for jack-o'-lantern, K is for kiwi, L is for ladybug, and then we've got M is for mushroom, N is for a nickel, O is for owl, P is for penguin, Q is for quarter, R is for rooster, S is for strawberry, T is for tiger, U is for unicorn, V is for vehicle, W is for watermelon, X is for x-ray. This is one of the only ones that might be kind of tricky, along with the V. I don't know if people will know that V is for vehicle. Y is for yellow, Z is for zebra. So what I might do with this, that skull got flipped upside down, but that's okay. I'll have to try to turn that around. But what I might do is on the tag, when I sell these, I'll probably just write like hint, and then in little quotations, V is for vehicle, X is for x-ray, Y is for yellow. I think the rest are pretty obvious. But yeah, it's really hard to find a button that or an object in general that starts with X. X-ray was the best I could do, and I found these little glittery skull buttons, so I was like, okay, that's gonna have to do. That's what the back side looks like too, in case you are curious. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get another two sheets of 8" by 8" felt. This is a lower quality felt that I'm using. It's just a felt that I get on Amazon. And since I'm using it because I've wrapped it in this cute little ABC 123 fabric anyways, so I don't need to use the higher quality felt. I just use the regular stiff felt, and I've wrapped it in that fabric. And what I'm going to do is attach that onto the backs of each of these pages. And then I have these 2 or 3 millimeter thick pieces of felt that I've just cut out by hand using scalloped edge fabric scissors. And I just cut them big enough to fit in between the front and back layer of each of those sheets of felt. So that's what it'll look like. And I'm going to put this one in on the right side in between there. And those are going to be my binding pieces. I'll put 2 holes. I'll sew around the border of both of these pages and sew those in place, and then that's what it will look like. So it'll be like a little ABC booklet that you can open up and you'll see all the letters of the alphabet. I also have my little business felt tags that I print. I have some handmade in Canada or handmade in the US little tags that I have available on my website as well if you wanted to insert a little handmade in Canada or handmade in the USA felt tag in your busy books. I don't do that on every single page. I don't include my tag like this, but if it's kind of like a set, if it's 2 pages that kind of go together, then I will include it. But if it's just a single individual page, then I just include my other tag that can be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and sew around the borders of both of these. Okay, those are all sewn around the border. The last thing I'm going to do is get my nice heavy-duty hole punch, and I'm going to use that to just put 2 holes into the binding pieces of both of the sides. And then I've got these 1.5" binder rings that I'm going to use to connect the 2 pages together. And then that way, if my customers want to add more pages to this book, they can do that. And there you have it. That is the completed little ABC Lift the Flap book. I love this one. I think it's so cute, even for children who are not old enough to recognize their letters of the alphabet. Just the little flap, lift the flap aspect of it is so much fun. And then as they get older, it can help with their letter recognition and their letter sounds. And again, no detachable pieces, so yay for that. Nothing can get lost, so that is a wonderful thing. If you're curious, I'll get into how I make these cuts, and I'll show you the template for the letters. Although again, I will share it on my Patreon, but again, I don't really recommend using it. I think you probably get a clearer, better cut if you just type in your own letters using whatever font you want. But I'll put it there just in case any of you want to try to use it. And I'll show you how I get these flap cuts. Otherwise, thanks so much you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And last but not least, here's what the template looks like, and let me show you how I get these little cuts. I'm in my Cricut design space. I'm going to go into shapes on the left hand side. You can see all those shapes. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom, and you'll see there's these little line shapes. I just choose this one here. So I'm going to click on it, and then you can just adjust it to whatever size you want. You can make it more wide than it is long. You can go with the exact measurements that I had, and then you basically just arrange them next to each other. Oops, well, you can see that I've got mine here. I've just clicked and dragged it away. This is how I've arranged it. So when I go to cut, if I choose make, here it is here. So normally I just place my 8" by 8" sheet of felt in the upper right corner, and then I just arrange them all. I have them all grouped together, or attached, I guess is what the correct term is for when you want things to stay together when you go to cut them. So I've got them all attached, and then I go to cut it, and then I put my felt down, and it'll cut out those flaps onto the felt. So I think that those are only offered if you have the Cricut subscription, like the monthly subscription. You get these extra things. I don't know how else you would cut that if you don't have that subscription, but I'm sure there is a way around it. I just don't know what it is. This is what my letters look like. They're actually only 8" by 8", and they have enough to cut 10 sets on each one. Normally I always do 12" by 12" because that's the size of the sheets of felt that I have, and the size that a standard cutting mat is for these machines. And so I don't want to waste any felt, so I always try to fill up that entire 12" by 12" sheet. But this time I didn't. I only did 8" by 8" just because I only wanted to do 10 sets, and I wasn't sure if I would have enough buttons in my order to do more, so I just did the 10, but really, you could do more sets and fit a lot more on a 12-inch by 12-inch sheet of felt. Okay, hope that helps you guys, and thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.